Good evening. I'll now call the City of Cannon Falls City Council meeting for Tuesday, September 19th to order. Roll call.
Councilmember Abady?
Present.
Altoff?
Here.
Carpenter?
Here.
Dalton?
Here.
Mattson?
Here.
McCusker?
Yeah.
And Mayor Robinson.
Here, all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the last City Council meeting of summer. Guess what comes next? Ouch. All right, this time, Chair will take a motion to approve the agenda as submitted.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ken, second by Cedar. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's approved. That moves us on to item 5 this evening, public input. Citizens may speak to issues not on the agenda. Before speaking, please give your name and address for the minutes, and please limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Hello, I'm Allison Godfrey, 100 Grove Street, North Cannon Falls. So I am here just to get some clarification on our water and sewer bills. You all live in town. You all have a bill. It's always been a hot topic the last few years, but this summer it kind of came to a head. Speaking with other people and noticing that it's not just one person, it's like 90% of the town is having an issue. So we are just asking clarification on why. It's not the water, it's the sewer. I'm hearing things about it's for the treatment plant. It's for the sandstone ridge that didn't get developed, that we're having to pay the price of it. We've got friends and family that live all around this state, and nobody's bills are as high as ours that we talk to. Nobody's. So why is that? How are the meters read is a good question too, because talking to people, they shut their water off for 3 weeks and they come home and their bill ends up being $60. How is that? I'd like to know how they're read. People are on fixed incomes, families, seniors. How are they affording this? It is a thankless job. Thank you for all your service for the city and the workers and the council and the mayor. It's a thankless job, but we would just like answers. So, thank you.
Who wants to tackle it?
I would like to say a few things, Robbie. One thing is, I want to thank her for bringing this up, because this is a feedback that I get all the time. And when I try to bring it up down here, it's like I'm the only one that's hearing this, but it is out there. It is a problem. And when I'm out on calls, especially with dealing with senior citizens, it's a challenge for them. And some of them are living on really tight budgets. So every time we deal with this water and sewer thing, I try to take it seriously, but we don't seem to do anything outside of just raise the thing 5-7% and blame it on to Sandstone Ridge and other things. That with her comments there, what I would like to do is, if we could actually have a workshop on this thing, is not to sit there and blame things, but see if we can come up with some different solutions. Now, one thing I will tell you that I have thought about is putting blue dye in your toilet is not going to solve your problem. The problem is that part of the problem is the high pressures we have in town here, that when we do have a leak, it causes a heck of a massive bill. There is things that you can do so that doesn't happen to you, but it doesn't seem to get brought up. And to give you an example, one thing is you can take your toilet, and if your valve is working good underneath your toilet, you can flush your toilet and you can close that valve till it stops, and then you can just open it enough till it works, not open it all the way wide open. If your toilet ever has a leak, you're at least only going to leak 1/10 the water that you are with that valve wide open. There's a lot of simple solutions like this that we can give to people. There's also, if we have high pressure areas and we can't do anything to lower that pressure, or if it spikes once in a while because we got to deliver a higher head pressure, and there's only 2 people living in that house, they should only have their supply valve half open. The reason for that supply valve to be half open is that supply valve is going to supply at least 25, 30 gallons a minute. If you got 2 people in there, you don't need over 10. So it's as simple as doing some simple things. The other thing is with Sandstone Ridge, I would like so much for us to take into consideration that when we did Sandstone Ridge, we actually had a whack and sack fee of about $5,000 to $7,000. The whole idea was that Sandstone Ridge thing was going to go. We were going to collect $5,000 to $7,000 whack and sack fees for every house that went up out there. Plus, we were going to get them on the bill, and we could not get people to build houses around here about 5 years ago, so we cut the whack and sack fee to try to help that out. So sometimes we do one thing, and it doesn't always help. So all I'm saying is, to me, Sandstone Ridge should be looked at as a separate thing. And what I mean by that is, if you got 120 lots up there, and we're normally getting $1,500 off each lot for taxes, and now we're not getting that. Or if we were supposed to get $5,000 for each lot, and now we're not getting that, then that's what the total package was that we're fighting up there. Now, whether that be $1.5 million or $2.5 million, to me, the fair thing is to take the Sandstone Ridge and put it in a separate budget, in a separate issue, and then deal with the sewer and water fund for the rest of the city that we normally would do. And then whether we have to budget more money to pay that off till southeastern Minnesota hopefully comes up with something. I would like so much to have a budget workshop where we all just sit around the table and it's just a budget workshop and we go line by line. And I apologize for talking this much, but I totally feel your pain out there. And I experience at least 2-3 times a week with customers. That doesn't solve the problem, but it really should be discussed, because I have people tell me from other towns that I meet and have lunch with, and they're not even people I know, and they'll say, wow, I hear you guys really had high sewer and water bills down here. And I'm thinking, wow, I thought we talked about the weather or something, but here they're hearing about our sewer and water. So it is a big thing, and I'm so glad the public finally came and brought it to our attention, and that's what these meetings are supposed to be about. So thank you for bringing that up, and I apologize for the long talk here.
Okay, the one thing, at that time, they put the new treatment plant in. Plus, they expanded more, to the south and all this good stuff. And it's way before my time. But the thing is, with the treatment plant, yeah, it costs a lot of money. But the towns that you said, if you would check to see if they have a new treatment plant or not, these towns that are coming or have to do this, their price is way, way up. And they will be getting hit worse than what you folks are. This is what I've been explained time and time over about that part. So,
Morris, I can say an example. I worked for the city of Nerstrand some 12 years ago, and their base bill at that time was $67, and that was when they got their new sewer treatment plant. So a lot of these towns are going to start experiencing, as that book we're passing around there, if you look at things like Wanamingo and I can name other towns, Waterville, that are as you can see, it is truly the sewer that takes us up there. In the water, we're probably below average. In the sewer, we're above average. So that's kind of what, and to get back to your question about the meter reading, that's done by radio read every month. We don't estimate bills. But if you continually fall into the same, we can't round a bill up. So if it's 402 cubic feet, you will pay 400 cubic feet. You may go along 4 or 5 months the exact same bill, and then all of a sudden it pops up into that 500. That's when it goes from 45 to 72 or 75, and that's try to explain that. But nothing is estimated, and they are all read monthly. If we see a high bill where we know it's high, that somebody's bill's high and it's double, we call right away and say, you've got something going on, let's get on top of it. So we don't want to treat clean water either, because the pumps down at the wastewater plant, they kick on clean or dirty water. That doesn't recognize clean water. So those run just as much, whether it's totally clean water coming through your stool or wastewater. So
How much debt service do we still have on that treatment plant? I know we talked about it, but I don't have the figure at the top of my head.
2019?
Yeah, I think so.
Linnell can look that up, but just a couple other general comments. The city utilizes Eller's Financial Consulting to help us look at our rates and look at our whole financial picture, because we don't want to put the city in a difficult position in the future. So part of the rates are the bond issues for past projects, including the treatment plant, but also street projects. The sanitary sewer portion is paid for through the sanitary sewer fund, either by cash on hand or through bonds, more likely through bonds. And same way with the water. During a street project, the water portion is paid for by the water fund, and then that has to be either by cash on hand or future bonds. And so council's trying to minimize that. Our financial consultant suggests a target cash reserve should include 6 months operating costs, 100% of the annual depreciation cost, and 100% of the next year's debt service. And some of the future debt that is expected to take place with both water and sewer, that the rates are intended to cover. A portion of that is the major street projects we have coming up, perhaps next year, at least if not next year, the following year, and then every 2 years thereafter for the next 3 cycles, I believe it is.
Cedar's got a breakdown of some of what the rates have been the last.
No, I'll do it.
Yep.
Yeah. So rate increases, right? Because what I think probably precipitated, what I heard you express was that there was an underlying sort of dissatisfaction with the level of the sewer rates, and then to see it jump up again sort of added maybe insult to injury, or that was the perception. So it doesn't really have to do with the most recent increase, but that may be the precipitating event that brought you here tonight. But for context, we have raised both water and sewer rates by a measure of 5% for the last 3 years in a row. In 14, but the years 11 through 14, so 4 years straight, we raised sewer by 10% a year. So that would have been a much more palpable difference on an average user's bill, right? And then you go back a little bit further and perish the thought, but in 2008, both water and sewer were raised by 30% each. Can you imagine that making a difference? I suppose some of you out there probably experienced that and watched a really big change. I mean, that's a third. And that was because the decisions that have been made, my understanding is the decisions that have been made prior to 2008 forced the city's hand, and they had to make a tremendous increase, which was, I'm sure, wildly unpopular. And that's exactly what we don't want to do again, right? So we have to spread these out over time with these small increases. So it's not ideal, and it's because we're managing our budget things, and we made some decisions about having a really nice big water treatment facility based on some projections that have not yet come to pass, but we still remain hopeful that they will, and that our sewer treatment facility will be running at full capacity, because it will need to because of population demands. We're not there today, but in the meantime, the increase for a Cannon Falls average residential user looks like this year the difference would be about $3.22, which is not to say it's nothing, but it is to say that I think that again, the harm was from the past, right? And that this is not pleasant, but this isn't the big rub.
It's just that, why should a family of two have $100 water bill when it has been checked for leaks? You have new toilets, you have new appliances, but you're still getting the shaft. I had to be the mean Nana this summer and not let my grandkids run through the sprinkler because all I can see are dollar signs going down the drain. And it's not, I'm not here for me, I'm here for everybody. My bill is nothing compared to other people that have $180 bill, and they don't even water their grass. So that's the frustration part of it. So that's why we're here.
Well, if I can help you a little bit with that, is I've tried to keep track of the averages of water bills clear back when they were $18 a month per person. And now we're up between 35 to 37. So if you got two people in your house, that's what you figured it should be, around $70, okay? So if you got two people in your house and you're getting a water bill of $120, you probably should, check toilets. If the kids are taking half an hour showers, maybe something's going on that you're using more water. But I'm just saying is the average comes out to be about 35. But I totally understand your sprinkler thing because I hear that all the time too, that the water bills scare people. And actually with our water bill system, the more you use, the more we charge.
That's by statute in the state of Minnesota.
Yep.
Well, that doesn't make it right. And to me, I don't care if you got 7 in your family or 2 in your family, you should be paying the same rate. And it goes strictly by volume of water. So yeah, if you start using too much water, it does take a heck of a jump. But I would like to comment a little bit on Morris's things there, that I don't think this helps at all. It certainly isn't going to be the whipped cream on the top here, but I will tell you that so many towns have held back because of budgets, and the state was going to make it mandatory that you have to do that and make you do it, bring all your systems up to date. I will tell you that because we brought ours up, and probably for the wrong reasons, we brought them up for Sandstone Ridge and the commercial property out south. But at that time, if we did that system today, it would probably be double or triple that. And that's a scary thought for me, for other small towns, that the price of things have gone up so much, I can't imagine what their water bills are going to be. So I think it's very concerning, but I do know that for the council, when I was on there, actually the southern businesses called me and pushed me back then to get that done out there. The one thing that I did tell them at a meeting that irritated me a little bit was that after we did it and finally got it out there, and so many places were happy they finally didn't have to rebuild septic systems, but then they turn around and what we assessed, they hired a lawyer and it fought it. So our income went down with a lot of commercial properties too. So there's a lot of things to blame here, and I don't know what the answer, but I think for my council members, I think we could do a better job than we're doing. But this is where we're at for this year.
Well, I mean, we've set the rates for the next 3 years, back in June, and if I believe I've got it right, I mean, for the next 3 years, I mean, it's locked, and then after that, it's like 1%, because that's yeah, I mean, because that's about the time that debt gets paid off, correct, on the sewer plant?
Based on the financials that were presented by Ellers, you're right, the rates are set through 19, but years 20 through 27 are all 1% increase per year for water and for sewer, and the storm sewer is in the 3 to 3.5% range, because we've got more storm sewer projects coming up.
And 2024 is when we actually get it paid off, isn't it? I mean,
No.
that's what concerns me too, is when people ask me what happens in 2024, and I always tell them, well, I hope, but I'm sure it's not gonna go down. The other thing is, Ron, that I would like to know more about sometime is when we talk about the budget here now is, Ehlers recommends so much in reserve, and I understand that. But if we took even 10% and lowered our reserves on each thing, that would all help. But I realize you guys got rules. The other rule that threw me for a loop is when you said in 2015, now it has to be charged strictly to sewer and water fund. It can't be bonded out another way. And I was wondering if that got voted on. I was reading that in the packet where somebody was telling me that sewer and water fund has to all pay for itself now. It can't be money from outside.
Are you talking about street projects, reconstruction projects?
I'm talking about if we have $1 million sitting there and we had 50,000 in reserve in our budget, the way it was explained to me, the sewer and water fund has to take care of itself. We can't pay that down 50,000 and then charge it.
Well, I don't think there's an issue or there's a problem other than probably generally accepted accounting principles about transferring from the general fund to water and sewer. It's short-term fix.
Well, I was told there's issues
But
with it.
Linnell would be the expert on that.
Okay.
Well, I'm not sure if I'm exactly following. I know that we can't levy for the debt that's in water and sewer. So that might be where some of that information
That's
that,
what I'm referring to.
yeah, we can't levy for that debt. The debt has to be paid for through revenues in the water and sewer funds. But I don't know that there's a prohibition regarding transferring funds. That's something we'd have to look into further, but we can't levy for that debt.
Okay, but it
And
would possibly be okay to transfer funds.
Well, that's something we'd need to look into. But
Because one example I can give you that I keep thinking about is when we had our audit done and everything was all done, we actually over budgeted like 170,000 last year. And every year I've been on here before, it was always around 50 or 60. So the first thing I thought of, I don't know why we couldn't have took 50,000 out of that and put into the sewer and water fund and try to keep it neutral. And that's what my thinking is on that. But I think, this meeting's getting too long. Okay, I'm done.
I mean, and if you're getting information from people that live in Hastings and in the metro area, their rates are completely done a completely different way because of the number of people that are paying on it. So, I mean, some of theirs are gonna be, but I've even checked with Red Wing, and Red Wings aren't that much better than ours.
So, for starters, we don't get paid by the word. So, keep that in mind when Leroy's up there talking. This doesn't help you guys who have concerns about your bill. I mean, we can talk till we're blue in the face, so you're not gonna walk out of here with feeling good about it. But Tom's been very, very receptive from what I've seen, about willing to come out. You've mentioned what you call a data logger that can
About half the
use-
meters we have in town, and we're constantly upgrading them, have the capability of us reading 90 days back from the point that we come out there. And it is so scary accurate that I can tell you what time you wake up in the morning, if you wash your hands after you shower, or after you go to the bathroom. It is right accurate. Unfortunately, people don't call us. I hear from these people, why was so-and-so's bill $300? They should call us. I could try to do something. But a family of 2, 3 should be a $45 water bill. I can tell you, like I put in my notes to you, my wife and I were 100 cubic feet. I've got 7 in my house right now. We do about 800 cubic feet. That's 100 cubic feet per person. That's very doable. That would put a family of 4 at the basic bill of $45. So if something's going over, there's a lot of things we have to look at, and I want to help you just as much, so call us. Call us beforehand, sooner than call after the fact, and then people are usually angry by that time. And then the pitchforks come out. So
I'm sorry, Tom, are you saying water alone? Were you guys both talking about water alone being $100? for a family of 2? Or are you saying water and sewer together?
Water and sewer together.
Okay, and you're talking about water alone.
No, I'm talking, a water sewer base bill is $45.
So mine is over $100 too.
And like I say, the thing that,
I water my plants a lot,
How
though. I
many is
figured
in
that
your
was it.
family, how many you saying?
7.
7? And your water and sewer bill is
8
40?
to, 8 to $900, 8 to 900 cubic feet.
Yeah, but how many dollars a month?
That translates to about 93,
With 7 people?
7 people. But what I'm saying is, if you look at the bottom of your bill,
$828 every month.
people are shocked when they say, well, what do you use to reference this? It's the amount of water used.
My plants a lot.
And you have to take a real hard look. You can't compare, you wouldn't want to compare grocery bills with me, let me tell you. But you can't compare water bills.
I shouldn't have to pay for it.
Right. So if you're using 900 cubic feet for 2 people, I can say from somebody that's used 200 to 300 for 2 of us for 5 years, you have something that we have to get on top of. And I'd be there tomorrow. I will be there tomorrow. And since we went online, I have got a couple requests of people that say, can you come in and check? When you leave here, there's some information, there's some colored tablets. I have seen many $1,000 water bills because of a toilet. So those dye tablets are important. So
I did the dye test with the food coloring last.
then we have to look into things like I say, reading your meter at night before you go to bed with a flashlight to see what's happened. Is your softener regenerating too long? Is things like that, are things like that happening? It's usually the toilet, but sometimes it's the softener. Very rare occasion there'll be something else, but it's usually that's what the two are. 90% of the time I'd roll the dice on, it's a toilet. And I hate to keep saying that over and over and over, but it is, truly. When you go there, take the cover off and water is pouring over the spout. That's ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching.
Well, the thing is with your softener, always remember that if you go without your softener for a month, our city water has got lime in it, but it doesn't have a lot of iron unless you're on tail end someplace. You can very easily get by without a softener for 1 month. So it's very easy to unplug that thing and put it on bypass and try your system for a month and see if that bill goes down. And if it goes down and you turn it back on and it goes back up, you know you need to get a hold of your softener company. So there is things that the homeowners can do out there to help. And when Tom says that there's been $1,000 bills, one that was so shocking for me is the people called up and it was $4,000.
Oh my God.
And I tell you, that leak could have been solved if the toilet valve would have only been 1/4 open. At least that bill would have been $1,000 instead of $4,000. So we are concerned. We're trying to make a difference.
I have a question. The people that go south or wherever they go and they're gone, do they get charged a flat rate? Because they pay the same amount and they're not there.
There's a base bill. As long as there's a meter in that house, there's a base bill. So if a house sits empty until that house is tore down and the meter comes out, they're part of the payment program to pay this off, regardless of how many.
They would get a flat.
No, they pay the same base rate of $45 when they're gone.
Okay. Anything else? If not, we will move on to other council business. You're very welcome. And thanks for coming in. Okay, at this time, we will move on to the consent agenda. Items of this area of the agenda may be adopted, or they may be removed and placed on the area of the agenda for discussion purposes before approving. For the folks at home, we'll read the consent agenda. Item A is adjust and correct claims for the accounting period ending September the 14th, 2017. Item B are the meeting minutes for the September 5th, 2017 City Council meeting. Item C is hired unscheduled part-time employees for the ambulance department. Item D is the warning siren joint power agreement. Item E, Resolution 2297, approving a variance for Iron Bridge Lodging LLC. Item F is introduction and first reading of ordinance 354, amending Chapter 152 of the Cannon Falls City Code, the zoning ordinance concerning the zoning map and zoning classification for a specific property. And item G is the sidewalk inspection policy. Are there any items anybody wishes to bring down?
G.
Okay, and that will become item 7C. If there is nothing else, then the chair will take a motion to approve the consent agenda as submitted minus item G.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mike, second by John. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. That moves us on to council business this evening, item 7A, which is the purchase of a fire department rescue truck. Ron?
Good evening, Todd Anderson with the Cannon Falls Fire Department. Excuse me. I'm here tonight to ask the council permission to move forward with the purchase of a 2017 rescue truck. The contract will be with the custom truck in which the purchase amount of $491,951. The price has increased $1,000 since the last time we talked for provisions the committee added into the truck and stuff. I guess I would ask at this time that we move forward with this, and just one bit of information I got basically. I did get a couple other bids just out of curiosity for a Pierce unit that was set up. It's not quite set up the way we had spec'd it out to be, but just so you know, they're kind of in the same ballpark. It was $485,655. So that was kind of a pre-truck that was already made. Like I say, not to specs. And I did get another one that was another breakdown of $446,000 basically. So what we're looking at is in the price range of kind of everything out there. By going through this consortium, they've already pre-done all that, and the prices come in pretty competitive. Yeah, so I guess I'm kind of open to questions or whatever you got, or
And when would this thing be delivered? When will we
we're
have to
talking
pay for
about
it?
7-8 months, and what we would have to do is in about 6, we're probably talking 8 or 9 months realistically. When the chassis gets delivered down to Osceola, we need to pay for the chassis when it gets there, which is $221,400. That's not gonna be anticipated for about 6 months. So any payments on this truck right now is 6 months out from signing the contract. Now just keep in mind that I did say last time we met that prices will probably be increasing 2 to 5% coming in October. So that's why we're kinda here tonight requesting that we move forward.
Well, my concern, and I mentioned it about 3 months ago, was I see your need for the truck, but my concern, it was never probably budgeted for. You know, all of a sudden we're stuck with a $500,000 bill. I just, you know, the fire department or the city administrator should have been kind of budgeting for this in the past. That was my only concern.
I've been the chief for 3 years basically, and coming on, you don't look at everything because you're really kind of blind to everything coming on. I guess, in past, we've always had money there to purchase trucks, and that kind of as purchase has gone down. We had quite a bit of money there for a while, and I know the city backed off on putting money towards it because of the budget crunches and everything else. They still do contribute money, like I think it was $18,000 or $19,000 a year, but moving forward, I mean, we're looking at, we need to put more money in those budgets. As Tom said last time, we're here even for the public works departments and stuff. So we've looked at what we can do from here on as far as pushing trucks out. And like I say, we have one right on the tail of this one, but we talked about it. We can push it out probably another couple of years before we need to do anything. So, and save up or whatever we need to do. As of right now, I think there's 180, 190,000, something like that in the capital fund right now. But like I say, we don't want to deplete that fund either, so we want to have it there for emergency funds. So we do have some money, but
I had shown council earlier the likely tool that we'd use to finance or to pay for the truck, which would be next year, would be a certificate of indebtedness. And I had Northland Securities run an analysis for us, and these dollars are going to be just a little bit off, but we were looking at two different options. One is to use $150,000 of cash on hand to purchase down the debt, or another option to use only use $100,000 of current cash. And these coupon rates in the area of 2% on a I'm just looking here, trying to look at his chart. But for a 10-year, $350,000, $358,000, there's about $8,000 issuance costs. And what he would do would be to market it with the local banks for a rate for the actual purchase of the debt. The annual payment on using $150,000, so on $358,000 over 10 years is about $46,000 a year for 10 years. That's at about a 2.75% estimated interest rate.
And the 150 would come from where?
The existing cash on hand in the equipment, the capital fire.
The fire equipment, we have that kind of cash on hand in there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's more than that. There's about 190 something.
180, 190, somewhere in there.
So when you talk 46,000 a year, you're talking about, what, 2 to 4% on the total budget, or what's that come out to be?
Well, what it, at today's, about 25,000 equals 1% of a levy increase. So just
So
under
it'd be
2%,
about
just under
2%.
2% levy increase.
So if your budget stayed neutral next year and didn't go up, we'd have to go up 2% because of the 46,000, right?
Correct. All else equal, right.
And if we go out another, I thought I read in there someplace we could go out 15 years or something.
I'd have to look and see if that's a possibility and what the interest rate would be. It's going to cost us more in interest is my guess.
Yeah.
Because, Robbie, you know, sitting here, I'm sure you all are thinking of the same thing, but on one hand, I'm sitting and thinking about the things that we need to do, which are parking issue and our sidewalk issue and our canoe issue, that next year we gotta spend some money and get this stuff figured out. On the other hand, if they can wait another year, it really helps us out, but if they can't wait a year and there's a safety issue, I don't wanna vote this down and something happen because of the age of the truck. So I don't look at this, Todd, as being a cut and dried thing where you should have done this or Ron should have done this. To me, I'm looking at the whole overall picture, and yeah, I was on the council when we were talking about turning every other street light off and the budget was tighter than heck. So I know what you're saying. I was here when that happened. But on the other hand, we're talking about another 5 to 8% increase this year that I can't figure out. And then we're talking about next year, we're automatically saying it's gonna go up 2% on top. If we go up another 8% next year, that's 10%. So it isn't easy to sit here. And I guess the question I would have for you, is this a real serious safety and security issue if this doesn't get dealt with right now?
Well, like you're always looking at cost increase and everything else going up, you know, if we hold off and keep on going and going, it's just gonna cost us more money also, you know, so, I see it as kind of an issue that we do not have enough room in this truck to carry all of our equipment. There's more needed equipment to put on there that we already have, that we just have to staff this truck. So, yeah, I would see it as, you know, kind of a need.
And as far as the cost, every time I've ever sat up here, whether we're talking insurance or what it is, I get so tired of hearing if we don't do it today, it's gonna go up another $1,000 next month. I almost don't even wanna hear that because I get tired of it. And it seems to be part of their game with you people that they threaten you with that. But yeah, I'm very concerned, Todd, that it's safe and it's right down there for you guys. Appreciate the heck out of what you do, but I also am really worried that our budget don't seem to stabilize here. We keep going up and up every year, and probably no answers to it, I guess.
So, I mean, which truck's more important, the one that you got coming in the tail end that's supposedly in worse shape than this one?
No, I would say, we have 3 pumpers there right now, basically. As far as the ISO has helped, it's helped bring the insurance ratings down, having that extra pumper there. Like I said, we had talked about, we can push this pumper out a little further. It's still in good running condition. Haven't had a lot of problems with, and the guys like running that truck yet. So I would say the rescue is probably more of a immediate thing, more than the one coming up. That's the one I was talking about. We could probably push it out another couple of years yet. And then, of course, we're gonna have to push the other ones out too. So, I mean, it's just gonna get to be a domino effect that we're gonna be buying more and more, as we can afford it, but.
Sounds like you're using the rescue truck an awful lot, probably more than the pumpers.
Yep. And we'd like to use it more than what we use it right now too, so. Well, it's more of a life-saving unit basically versus the pumpers that, we go to fight fires. Seems like right now we're fighting or doing more rescues and ambulance assists and everything like that than we are fire calls nowadays.
To me, that sounds like that puts it at a much higher priority, being able to assist in the rescues, because we really haven't had too many fires.
Right.
So what's your
Fingers
We've been lucky.
Yes, knocking on wood right now?
Yeah.
Don't jinx
Tonight
us.
we'll have something.
So what's your call volume with that, Todd? And I mean, I know it seems to fluctuate as to what calls the fire department gets called to by the ambulance. Some years it seems like it's every one of them, and then people get kind of tired of responding, and then there's not. I mean, what's your medical call volume?
I mean, I don't have an exact number right now, but I know our medical calls are way up, and I do believe that we respond to majority of them were paged. There's a few that, and I'm not gonna put examples out there to, but there are a few that we basically don't get a lot of people respond to, but there's a lot of them that we do get daytime and nighttime response out of.
How old is the truck that you want to replace?
It's a 90-something, it's 22 years old. We'll probably get, we're guessing $25,000-$30,000 for that too, that once we
How much?
sell. $25,000 to $30,000 once we sell it. I don't think trading in is a good option because I think we get more for it. And I've already got calls basically of people looking to, wanting to purchase it.
I was
basically.
just thinking about the fact that if we budget this for whatever, how many thousand a year, and it takes us 10 years to pay it off, are we good then are we gonna get another 10 years out of that thing?
I can't,
Or should we be?
well, we're basically, I think we're out 20 to 25 years on the replacement of the rescue right now, basically. We pushed it out a little bit more. We anticipated 18, but we've been out 22 years right now, so we have pushed it out already. I'd be willing to bet, with this newer truck, we can probably base it on 25 years, 20 to 25 years again.
Well, I guess the thing is, I'm trying to think about is when we budget for this stuff, if you're gonna start getting back to taking care of the fire department's budget, we should be budgeting, adding on 3%, so this money, some of it is being put aside for this stuff, so we don't have to go so high to start with.
And, we're gonna be looking at the levy here next, and this is included in the preliminary.
The purchase of it is included, but not the financing of it. Because we'll have to, we'll have to raise the funding. We'll have to do the equipment certificates or some other funding method. But there's no levy included in it, Robbie. The levy doesn't get hit until 19.
So it doesn't get hit it doesn't get for 2018, it wouldn't be till 19 that we would be looking at having to do that. So for 18, we wouldn't have to worry about it for next year after. That's 19 is when we set the levy next year.
There is another option in here too that we could look at as, I do believe they give us like 4 or 5% interest on the money if we prepaid it. Say if we went, signed the contract tomorrow, put 150,000 towards the truck, they'll give us, I think it was like 4.5%, 5% interest on it, wasn't it? Something like that. We can revisit that basically, but.
So we gotta make a decision tonight because, we gotta set the preliminary levy, so I mean, we gotta make a decision tonight on what we're gonna do.
Yeah, it says 5% per annum, basically is what it says in the contract here.
I would really like to see, this thing go through, and on the other hand, I'd rather see the levy or the budget taken care of first so I can see where we're at. And I can't see that if we took care of this in January or February, that it's gonna change anything. So, I would like to get the budget stuff all done first. But that's just my thinking.
Well, this is part of the budget. stuff.
Right.
Yeah, it is part of the budget.
So
It's part
you
of the
can't
budget.
Do the budget and then this.
Right.
So basically, even whatever we do tonight, it's not gonna affect this year's budget. It's gonna go into next year's levy in 2019 budget. Even though we will most likely take some of the cash on hand to put down because you've gotta put down,
When's it gonna be delivered, Todd?
We're talking probably 8 months.
8 months?
I mean, because you,
Chassis is before that.
Chassis before that we have to pay that 221,000 for, upon delivery, and then the remainder after the truck is built. That's just delivery of the chassis from the manufacturer to the custom where they're gonna build the box and stuff on it.
So does the 150 cover part of that, and then we gotta hit the big bill and take
It's,
care of it?
I guess
or-
whatever you guys kinda decide as
well,
far
I
as
mean, if
finance.
we did the 150 and then, but you gotta have 221,000 down, when the chassis is delivered, according to the contract here. So, I mean, Chair's gonna call a motion, Chair will take a motion to either approve the purchase of the heavy rescue truck or not.
I move to purchase approve, I move to approve the purchase of the heavy rescue truck.
Second.
A motion by Cedar, second by Mike. Any other discussion?
Just for I guess I want to say this, because it's similar in some ways to the water and sewer consternation that we're hearing. You know what I mean? It's more, it always, and Leroy says this just about every meeting. It's more, it's more, it's more, it's always more. And that there's some hand-wringing and consternation about that. And maybe I'm just more accepting of, I don't know, and clearly I'm accepting because I'm paying too much for my water bill right now without questioning it. Anyways, as we grow, as we improve our capabilities, as we improve capacity and responsiveness both to needs of populations and, rescue, all of these things, I don't know, is there anything that doesn't cost some more over time in life, right? Our job, of course, is to be as mindful and responsible and critical about those decisions as we can possibly be. But if our contentment as citizens and council members is reliant on staying the same or going backwards, then we are never going to be content because we are destined, God willing, to continue moving forward, and that costs money. I don't like it necessarily either. I like to find deals and pinch my pennies when I can, but we have to do. And I think this falls into the category we have to do.
Yeah, one more question. Any sale of that truck that they will be selling would be put towards payment for the new one?
You could, the proceeds from any sale would go directly back into their fund and used however it's deemed appropriate at the time.
Okay.
I would rather see that 35,000 stuck in the fire account and add 10 to it every year. And go with the least amount we can on it, because if you got the fund built up and he comes in and says, the truck is working good, the other one, we could go another 2 years. We have the option to take that money and put it on that bond we did on that. So Just a thought.
Well, if I go for this, you got a pumper coming down the road in a few years. I'd like to see it budgeted for and, work with Ron on that, so that gets taken care of, so we don't have that down the road too.
The one thing, Todd, too, is you'll get a kick out of this. If you had Claire Willis down there, we wouldn't have to buy this truck. He'd just go tell you get a new pickup, and he'd make it.
Willitize it.
And he'd do it for about $50,000. And that's the kind of old people we used to have around here that saved us a lot of money that ain't there anymore.
All right. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thanks for your good work.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right. That moves us on to Resolution 2298, which is approving our preliminary levy. Just keep in mind, everybody, that as we set this preliminary levies should be set higher because once you set it, you can't go any higher, but you can always lower it. And that's the mindset that we've always had and we've always tried to do. I think Ron's done a pretty good job of putting things together. We look at, our tax capacity has risen, so that's going to help capture some of this no matter what we do, but we still got to operate the city. There's some expenses in here, like $47,000 or almost $48,000 for the Cannon Valley Trail. $34,000 of that, they're going to want that every year for the next 10 years. I don't know if you guys read that or not.
They want, but we're not agreeing to that now.
I don't-
They've only asked right now for 3-year commitment and really 1, so.
Well,
Same.
anyway, I'm just saying that
We're gonna follow it
it's a
all.
possibility, a very good possibility that may be asked for. But that was, what was first put out was a 10-year request. So as we set this,
Actually, I'm sorry, one more thing about the Cannon Valley Trail. The discussions that we have at the Joint Powers Board always talk about that, the reason we need that investment from the municipalities is to put us in a competitive position for grant funding, but it doesn't have to always be cash. It can be in-kind services. And we have, in Cannon Falls particularly, a lot of opportunities to provide services, some of which we already kind of do, and get credit for that. It's not going to eat up all of the money. I'm not saying that, but it can be offset in ways that are not straight cash. I'm just saying. And those opportunities will increase as the construction time and the improvements go on.
and you might have heard me in the past talk about the possibility of seeing if the DNR could take over the trail, and that's been talked about with folks from the DNR, and it's not going to happen, not in the next few years. They haven't looked at taking over any trails for a while, is what they said. So we can take that off the table, but I mean, it was something that had to be brought up as we look at what we got to pay. I know the trail, I mean, Cannon Falls is known for a lot of things besides water bills. We were known for our, for the river, the canoeing, the tubing, for the bike trail, for the winery, for a lot of different things, and people come for the antiquing. So a lot of people come to town just for those things, and the trail's one of those things that brings people to Cannon Falls and keeps us on the map. So I mean, if you go some places, you say you're from Cannon Falls, they say, well, you've got the bike trail. We've been down there tubing. We come back, we love it. So I mean, that's some of the things that we have to look at when we're talking about the trail. But let's go back to the budget.
Motor vehicle and that, another part-time besides what's there now? Why?
The motor vehicle department is experiencing a lot of changes in the way that we have to process transactions. You may recall that MNLARS was a program that was rolled
Right.
out by the state of Minnesota.
Right.
That changes the way that we have to each and every transaction, motor vehicle transaction that comes through. Used to be where a customer could come in, get your tabs, you put your tabs on, give your paperwork, you'd be out the door fairly quickly. Now, for that simple transaction, it's going to take longer because we have to enter the information into the computer while the customer is standing there in front of us. And that's just for a simple transaction. Then you get a new to fleet vehicle, new to the state is what that would be, or a new purchase or a transfer. And those transactions now, we enter all the information instead of sending it off to the state. So every transaction is going to take longer. Our staff is working overtime.
Well, that's because of the goofy
Right,
thing
but,
right now,
but that has
because-
settled down,
Yeah,
and we're
but it
still
is
seeing.
bad, 'cause I know I was someplace
Yep,
today,
yep, and
they
we're,
were telling horror stories yet.
yes,
Oh, yeah.
and there are still
More
some
than 2
horror
months.
stories out there, there's no doubt
I
about
guess
it.
I don't see another part-time person.
I would ask that we keep it in for now, and then before the final budget is adopted, we would take a serious look at that, and by that time, we would have a better idea of where we're really at with the transactions, and then we can make a determination at that time. So I'd rather keep it in the preliminary budget and keep that open for discussion for the final.
It's fine. But then also another person here?
Yep, we are, as you are aware, we have hired summer help the past
Right.
3 years because we're not able to keep up. And what I'm envisioning with the part-time employee is that I would like to shift some of the duties and share some of the duties that are being done by a couple of individuals, and so that it would relieve some of the pressure from them, and we could be more efficient in some of the processes that we do. I'd also like to take a closer look at our Laserfish data processing programs and get those up to date. And we just don't have the time to do that with the current staff that we have. So again,
Now,
that's,
Afton is still gonna be up here too then?
no, she is not.
She's gonna be strictly,
She's down in Public
okay,
Works.
see, that's why I didn't know, that's why,
Yep.
okay.
Yeah,
And why
she's
aren't
no
we
longer
switching
there.
back and forth now that Morris brought that up? I know, I never heard why she came here, and then now she's back again. It was supposed to be better here, I guess.
That might be an employment related issue that probably is not appropriate for discussion in this venue. Right? Maybe? If it's anything having to do with any sort of accommodation, which I don't know if it is, but if it even touches on it, we are not to talk about it in this venue. You brush up against things like this all the time, and I'm not going to let it
First
happen.
Next time before I ask a question. And-
That would be a great idea.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Right. Any other questions?
Yeah, I wanted to follow up with Morris there with the License Bureau thing, and hopefully this is okay to say, but I know that there was a period of time when the License Bureau thing was always self-supporting, and it has gone the other way now where we're subsidizing it, so I consider it to be a big part of the budget.
That is-
I also keep thinking about that the state caused some of these problems that you feel you're short of people now and we have to add because they're traveling back and forth to that corner and then they're coming out here and doing this. And I just don't understand why the state don't subsidize us and help with this more. And
Well-
Ron is grinning, but I don't consider it to be funny because
Oh, it's,
how
it's an
much money are
it's the
we gonna
state.
keep
It's
losing
an
before
unfunded-
we have a debate
no, right,
whether we should keep
keep
doing
it or
this?
not.
You hit it on the head. It's an unfunded mandate. Totally. Especially this new change where it appears that the transaction time for our employees is gonna be substantially more than what it was before this new system was put in place.
Right.
And, you know, we want the customer to have a good experience as best as possible. It sure wasn't those few weeks where the transition was taking off. You could see the tension in the waiting lines. And we don't like that. I mean, we're pretty proud to deliver
Well, I
a really
think the
good
state
So-
should be
product.
responsible for that.
Well, they're not going to.
They're not.
So
They're
you
not
can
going
think
to.
that as
They're
much
not
as you
going
want.
But then
But-
again, if we're
That
gonna,
don't make it right.
but if we're gonna be in
Oh,
the
I agree.
negative on that, is it better to sell it off? They're private? And let them worry about it?
I mean, it's a service that's provided by the city that usually comes in a negative balance every year. I mean, we're not making any money off of it, and it's actually costing the city just like a swimming pool. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, not every
mean,
community has.
not every community has it.
cute
People,
offers.
people like,
Well, it's
So-
40,000 isn't worth that for us. Is people want us to keep it going.
Right.
That's the question.
But if you had a private, it'd still be in town,
If you had it leased out to somebody else.
you know?
And then it would be all our money that came in off.
Just like Red Wing that time, they switched over, I think,
Yeah, Red Wing still is. I mean,
you
I
know,
got my tabs down there a few weeks ago because I was working down there, and it was
Yeah.
in and out in 2 minutes.
yeah.
Right, yeah, that's a discussion that's probably not going to be answered tonight.
No.
That's a-
No.
that would be a-
No.
But it's something we gotta keep.
It's something
in
we got to
mind
keep in mind as we move forward.
Because of that, we gotta save money somewhere.
Right, so we all hear a lot of things from folks out in the world. Leroy apparently hears a lot more from a lot more people than anyone else combined, maybe. But let's throw it out there. Do people have some thoughts about retaining our motor vehicle office in its current capacity at all? Let's hear about it, and we can talk about it at another meeting, right?
Right,
Yep.
right.
Okay.
It's
I mean-
just something that popped up.
Yeah.
I never thought of
worth-
it.
It's worth
until he
being mindful
was
about.
talking.
It's stuff that's been talked about, and I think that this is the first time it's really been brought up to maybe really look hard at it since I've been on the council. So, I mean, it's something that's provided as a service, but, something that can definitely be discussed before December or even into next year.
Yep.
It's kind of like selling fishing and hunting licenses at the hardware store. You don't make a dime, but you hope you're doing them a service so they buy something else.
Yep.
I don't think they're buying anything else when they come to City Hall, though. So I'm not
True.
sure it's quite
Yeah,
the same.
maybe we could sell them some dirt or something.
Yeah.
Compost.
All right, any other discussion on the preliminary levy?
So am I reading this right? So we have this, the 6% is what we originally said, work it up at. And then, in order to accommodate the compensation and classification study, we need to go to 7.8 rather than 6. Am I reading that right? Okay. Yeah?
Yeah, in order to accommodate the increase, now that also includes a 3% COLA, which we'll be talking about before we set the final levy.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But you're right, and that 7.8%, kind of the bottom line on that is, and you could almost creep higher than that, than 7.8, but at that rate, it's approximately $23 on a $200,000 home for the city portion of property tax.
Right.
That's what it would increase.
What I really like, and of course, you could move things around and say that, you could do the compensation stuff and not do the other stuff and wind up right back at the 6%, technically, right? Like if the part-time employees, for example, weren't a part of this,
Right.
then maybe it would fall in a different way. But I do think it highlights something important, which is we sat here and talked about our compensation study and what it shows about our ability to attract and retain talent. And choosing to stay at about the same property tax rate, right? A person having $3 difference in their property tax rate is going to be pretty much unnoticed in a year. We could either stay level and not pay our people what they're worth per fair market value, or we can choose to pay our people what they're worth by fair market value, and then we don't stay level. We grow. So it highlights that that's the difference maker this year.
Anybody else?
Well, I totally agree with treating employees fairly. But I don't agree with just having a budget thrown at us and this is where it's at, because I spent about 2 hours last Sunday going nuts over that thing. And I can see 35,000 came in here for this and 37 for that, and I can see different things that are up, and then yet I'm not talking about that we have to keep the budget level, but our income goes up every year, and then Ron says Goodhue County's tax levy is higher this year again, and everything just keeps going up. So I cannot vote for this 7.4 or 8. I don't even want to stick to the 6, but I can.
Well, Leroy, I mean, this is not what's going to be the final. I mean, this is what we do every year, and you say the same thing every year. It drives you crazy, and I know it does. I mean, but if we don't set it at this level, and something goes on, nothing we can do about it once it's set. I mean, if we set it at 3%, and all of a sudden we figure out we can't operate on 3%, we can't raise it. We can only lower it.
Well, that's where I'm totally asking you guys to vote your conscience, so that I can blame it on you guys. because I can't vote for it.
Okay, I mean, and whatever we vote for, I mean, it'll, if we vote for the 7.8%,
Totally agree with
that's what'll come out on the preliminary tax statements that come out before you get your actual one after we pass everything, but the preliminary ones come out in November, I think it is, somewhere around there.
I'll make a motion to approve with the 7.8% levy increase.
Okay, I got a motion by Mike,
Second.
a second by Ken.
Mayor, in that motion, we also need to set the date for the, oh, it's included in the resolution, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
For the
that got a motion and a second to adopt resolution 2298, approving the 2018 preliminary property tax levy and budget, and setting the meeting date for the public input for 6:30 PM on December the 5th, 2017, in the city council chambers.
Okay, so the resolution itself, though, is not all of its subparts, right? We're not approving the 2 part-time employees right now. We're
No.
just saying we're approving that we're a cap of 7.8%
Right.
that could be adjusted downward, but could never be adjusted
Right.
upward.
Right.
And that we would decide our final number in December 5th.
Right.
Okay,
That's the way it works.
great. Just making sure we're all,
All right. Any further discussion? Do a roll call vote.
Mike?
Aye.
Cedar?
aye.
John?
Aye.
Morris?
I might have to abstain because of Sarah, because, do with the wage part. I don't know.
But this-
Shouldn't,
this
because this is
just the
still,
levy, so I don't
right,
think
Right.
it's necessary.
Okay.
At least that's
Yeah.
my opinion. Okay. Morris?
yes.
Ken?
Yes.
Leroy?
No.
5 yeses and 1 no.
Okay, the resolution passes 5-1. All right, that moves us on to item 7C, which is the sidewalk inspection policy. And Leroy, you brought that one down?
Yeah, the only reason I brought that down is, I assume we got a letter from the League of Minnesota Cities on this stuff? Is that right, Ron?
In essence, yes. Every time there's a fall, our insurer, the league, comes to town, we talk about things, and it's their standard boilerplate template that they would have every city have this policy. It just basically gives us a process that we are going to inspect it and document from here on out, so that we just can't keep shoving this one down the road as well. So that's all it is a boilerplate that the league suggests on inspections.
Well, the one thing I will tell you that the reason I brought it down is I don't like when we have to get a response from like the League of Minnesota Cities. I feel that we owe them a letter back and a letter of apology because we haven't done a better job of taking care of this. Last Sunday was probably the first Sunday in 6 months that I didn't have anything to do. And after I read this thing, I decided I better get on the bike and ride all our sidewalks to see what's going on. And most of our repairs that we need are not thousands of dollars. They're basically some cement saw that needs to grind off a little here, or it's a little concrete here, or it's a tree that got pulled out and it didn't get leveled back. So I was kind of insulted to get this, and we need to do a lot better job on this sidewalk issue. And if you want to take and spend 2 hours and go over all our sidewalks, I covered everything from downtown to the school. And I will tell you that in front of the white building down there by the winery that we own, that's some of the worst sidewalks in that area. And that needs to be addressed, because if there's one place you want safe sidewalks is when there's alcohol involved. And I will tell you, in Brewster's, there's a hump down there that's about an inch high. And this has to be taken seriously. And I make a motion.
Leroy, can I just mention, we do take it seriously. When somebody falls, I take it very seriously. About 5 years ago, under previous administration, I brought this up about grinding sidewalks. It's an easy decision to make to push things down the road, as we're seeing tonight with a lot of things. But we take this very seriously. But administration at that time felt $20,000 on top of the budget was something we could not stand for. There will be some backlash for this because our ordinance does state that the property owner will repair. And at that time, it was my decision to go along with that because it was not the popular call to go tell every businessman, well, you've got 1,000, you've got 2,000. So there was a reward for making the least amount of problems, and that's where we're at. But we take it very seriously.
If there's gotta be a major repair done, it certainly has to be discussed, but if it's just a minor repair, we've got sentence to serve people to help us. This stuff is not that complicated. We took trees out downtown, and they are some of the worst spots where the bricks are, and all they had to be done, if nothing else, is put 4 posts in there so nobody could walk across them. So there's issues that have to be dealt here, and I don't want to get into a contest tonight. I'm just saying that I didn't like that we had to have the League of Minnesota Cities come and tell us what to do with our town. I think we should just do that.
Okay, well, we can discuss that later. We're just going to approve the inspection policy is what we're here for tonight.
Make a motion to approve.
No, second.
Motion by Leroy, second by Morris. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Brings us on to reports. Tom?
I just wanted to let you all know that Excel, in the month of October, will be replacing street lights into LED lights. So we will no longer have the flickering ballast and the things that we get the complaints for. I will remind people again, the only lights we own are the ones downtown. There is a lights out number that can be called or accessed online for Excel, but they will all be Excel fluorescent lights. They'll have a softer light. It'll be a whiter light. It's 3,000 Kelvin. Keep that figure in your mind because that's what's appealing to the eye, and that's where we may be going through downtown. If we ever talk about downtown lighting and LED, you want a light that's not harsh, but that does a job, and that's, you'll notice in other towns, but in the month of October, it will be done here in town.
Great.
Thanks, Tom.
That's good.
Well, at the library this Thursday, I have Andrew Wallish coming and doing a performance at 6 o'clock. He's a jazz singer and pianist, so I think it'll be pretty good. Next Monday, story time with Miss Cindy starts back up at 10:15 in the morning. And next Tuesday, Lunch Bunch is starting with Miss Sherry doing it at noon. And then on the 30th, we have Hoof on the Roof at 1 o'clock coming in to do their barn dance music, which should be really, really cool. I'm looking forward to it. And if anybody's in Rotary, I was asked to do a presentation there next Tuesday. So if you're up early and want to hear me try to talk that early in the morning, I'll be there.
Thank you.
Thanks. Chief?
Thank you, Mayor. As you alluded to, this is the last meeting of September, which means October is right around the bend. This year, the high school is going to do a homecoming parade. They have not done one for a number of years. I received information from the principal on the date and the time, but he did not have and some of the other details that would help me. Based on that, I would request council make a motion and approve parking restrictions for the parade route, should it be deemed necessary to limit it on one side. I won't know for sure. I'm going to go down for the next 3 weeks and kind of monitor. It's going to be Friday, October 6th, 1:30 to 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So I'm going to kind of monitor to see what our parking situation is in the 2 blocks of Mill Street in our downtown, which would be where I would expect most of the congestion to be. So I would have prepped up a memo, but because I didn't get that until after this had gone out, I'm asking for that now rather than trying to push it off till October.
Move that back under council business.
We can just do it.
Okay. We'll tag that under council business, so item D, which will be the high school homecoming parade.
I move to authorize the police department to initiate parking restrictions if they determine it necessary.
Okay. Motion by Cedar,
Second.
second by Ken, to approve the parking restrictions as necessary for the homecoming parade. Any further discussion?
Are they releasing school for that?
I
Must
am
be.
not sure. I
They
was,
must be.
right after.
Otherwise,
Pre-
who's gonna go?
previously-
1:30 to 2 p.m. That's
yeah, previously they do it usually about 3 o'clock, and so I was surprised with 1:30, so I'm not sure what they're,
And maybe it's one of the early release dates.
that might be.
It's not.
Is it a Wednesday?
No, it's a Friday.
Friday.
Originally, it was going to be a Wednesday, but then they shifted it to Friday. I'll be honest, on Wednesdays, I wasn't really worried. On Fridays, I'm a little more concerned. That's when I want to monitor
Right.
and make a determination, so.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved.
That takes care of that business. I appreciate it. With that, of course, football season has started. Again, we will have home games, so parking along Highway 19 and 7th Street will be occurring. Just want to remind people that when they're traveling through those game nights, just be aware we do have people that park in the park and ride and in that overflow lot and are crossing the street. By the time the game starts, it's already getting dark or is dark. So just be cautious for pedestrians, for our residents. That's all I have.
Probably need an extra ambulance on Friday night, because they're talking about 88 to 90 degrees, so.
Be like a Southern football game. Ron?
Just one item, believe the next council meeting will be bringing forward a consultant that's been working with us, with Tom and Linnell and I, on LED. First, we're kind of doing a phased approach on energy savings. One is LED lighting within this building, the public safety building, and the library, and treatment plant. But, so that's the, that'll be the first phase of that. And then they're also working with the program with XL Energy on getting our demand rate cut in just about in half, if not in half, for, again, this building and the other facilities that have XL-approved generators on them. It's something we've never looked into. We weren't aware of it until we started talking with this company. So that would further decrease our energy savings. And then the third item is when Tom mentioned the downtown XL's streetlight project, we've got 127 globes that we would be looking at converting to LEDs, but we really want to work with the business district on that because I've heard too many horror stories of cities that have converted LEDs downtown, and the lighting, the people don't like them, the upstairs tenants don't like them, the business owners don't like them, and it depends on the Kelvin rating. It's I think the ones that that Family Fair put in the parking lot, I believe, are at 4,000 Kelvin, and so 3,000 is a little bit more subdued than that. But that's, before we just jump into that program, I do want to talk with the business folks, probably head of a focus group or meet with the chamber board or something like that. So we will hopefully see some more cuts on expenses.
Mike?
Yeah, I got something. I got an email this afternoon in regard to a council member who went to a member of the Public Works Department and told him what he was supposed to be doing. In this instance, it was cleaning the 3rd Street Bridge, if I'm not mistaken. And I've heard other stories of council members going to staff members and asking them to do things, or really telling them to do things. And it's in my opinion, that's a total break in the chain of command. The city staff is confused. They don't know who they should listen to. I think as council members, we need to, if we've all got great ideas and we've all got suggestions, those things need to go to department heads, and the department heads can then decide and prioritize what needs to be done and when, and direct the appropriate staff member to complete the tasks, should they deem it necessary. It's just, I've just heard too many stories lately of great overreach on the part of council members. Cedar and Ken and I attended the League of Minnesota Cities newly elected, whatever it was, and that's one thing that they really hit home. Individually, the 6 of us have absolutely no power at all. But collectively, then we make policy and we set budgets, and we got to stop. We can't be harping on city staff. We gotta go to department heads, let them figure out who does what. And we sit up here and make our decisions. We don't get into the everyday stuff of running the city. So I would appreciate it if council could back off and let the department heads do the jobs that they're hired to do. And just kind of lay off.
I agree. I mean, the department heads, I mean, are the ones that direct their workers which way to go and what to do. So, I mean, I agree. It should go directly through the department heads or to Ron and let him put it down to the department heads to have things done. So, I mean, I agree with you fully.
That's all I've got.
Who did that, or how did that come about, Mike? I'm sitting here wondering, I haven't heard any of that.
You did
Actually,
it.
the email says
You
that you
did
did it, Leroy.
I did it?
Okay, we're not going to get in an argument about this. We'll talk about this away from the council meeting on this part of it, and we can talk about this after that. But, you know, the council is not here to direct department heads to do things. So,
Okay. That's different.
Cedar?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, to amplify that, but without being too direct, evidently. Also, none of us as individuals are privy to all of the various meetings that occur. So there are all these different commissions. I don't go to all of them. You go to some extra ones. I go to the ones that I'm on. I don't really go to extra ones. I got other stuff that I got to do. So I don't know what's already been discussed. You know what I mean? Sometimes things are brought up in the report sections of those, and then it's determined among the people who are sort of charged with directing policy for that department or for that section of government to not pursue that. And that's another example of what has happened since one of the last meetings, is that our Public Works Commission discussed an emergent issue, determined what our agreed path would be, and there was really no memorialization or announcement about it because it was a small issue and we were all in agreement, and that's well within our purview. But a different individual council member didn't know about that and called city staff and said to do the very thing that we had agreed in our judgment not to do, and so made a contrary order, which put that employee in kind of an impossible position. And that's really where my empathy of this lies, because an employee in that position cannot win. And if we're talking about treating our staff the way that they deserve to be treated, putting people in a position to succeed and accomplish the things that we want them to accomplish, that is our job. And we're not doing that when we put people in that position. So that is all I have.
John?
Just one thing, Dave isn't here tonight, but we had a talk, planning commission would like to see something come up on the winery. Hopefully that'll be done here in the next month or so. He's got a plan, and I'd like to see him bring it, because I know if this goes through, I know he wants to start this construction next March or April, so. And another concern I had, and I'll bring it to the council tonight, on September 9th, there was a 5K run and walk on Mill Street. And do we okay that for them to have that?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, we did.
I would suggest that maybe we don't do that on Mill Street. I mean, that's the center of activity, but it caused a lot of problems that morning. You had the parking lot full of farmers market and bikers. You had a big wedding at the winery, and the vendors couldn't get into the winery to set up. You had a big deal at Mill Street. The vendors couldn't get in there to set up for a birthday party or something. And we had a demo at the fairgrounds. And I had I was walking around the farmers market. I had a lot of angry residents and citizens that couldn't get on Mill Street. I would suggest that if they're going to have a 5K, I hope they made some money, but I'd like to see them do it at the fairgrounds or the school, but not on Mill Street on Saturday morning.
I remember when the chief brought that to us, and he said he had conferred with all the businesses on Mill Street and said, we're good, right? Right? Mm-hmm. Oh, no, do I not remember that correctly? Okay, I'm sorry.
No, this one was, we really didn't have any involvement in it.
Okay.
So I would have to look back to see more, but we had 2 requests for 5Ks. One decided not to go this year. The other one did go. I don't remember the specifics, but the information I got was they needed nothing from the police department. So we really were hands off on that endeavor.
Well, they do a dualathon in May at the fairgrounds, and it works out just fine. On this particular Saturday morning, it was chaotic down there, and the businessmen were upset because there was no parking, and I just as soon have it somewhere else.
It's something we can look at as we move forward. I mean, on anything else on that, I mean,
Yeah, I mean, certainly if council wants to, you know, look at when we have these requests, saying there's certain areas that we will put these types of events, there's certain areas where we don't want these events, then we can work with the promoters to provide them that information and steer them into the direction that the council has chosen. You know, we want it to be successful for them, but we also want it to be successful for the community.
I'm not, I hope they made money, but I just, the situation was.
Saturday mornings are
Yep.
not always a good time, especially if it's going to end after 10 o'clock in the morning.
Yep, and if I remember right, they had indicated that they thought they'd be out of there before any of the downtown businesses' activity really kicked up. Obviously, they weren't.
That's all I got.
Marcy?
No.
I don't have anything either. Just want to say thanks to staff for the work they've been doing on the budget. I know we got work to do between now and December to finalize the budget for this year. Thanks for all your hard work. Tom, thanks for your hard work on the water department. I know the folks have been out doing a lot of patching and trying to keep a lot of the streets that are wearing out in certain areas patched up because winter's coming, and so good job to the crew doing that. And seems like everything's going great at the library. And so with that, Chair will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.